Welcome to another episode of the Sussex Non-League Podcast, where we take a look at all the latest goings on across grassroots level in the county. I'm Matt Polt, and I'm delighted to be joined by Sussex sport guru Steve Bone as we run the rule over non-league football across Sussex. And we have plenty to discuss this week, including Three Bridges creating more history in the Sussex Senior Cup, 2 Sussex clubs celebrating reprieves following confirmation of the divisional lineups for 2026-27, and playoff final chaos. I think even I might be underselling that a little bit in the SCFL Premier. You can read all the stories we were talking about, videos and pictures online at sussexworld.co.uk/sport. And we will start with Three Bridges, who completed a remarkable double by beating Brighton Hove Albion under-21s to lift the Sussex Transport Senior Cup on Wednesday evening. We were both in attendance for that one, weren't we, Steve?
Yes.
Give us a quick overview of the game. Were Bridges deserved winners? And do you think that Brighton may have underestimated Jamie Crellin's side a little bit?
Well, in fact, never mind whether I think they might have underestimated them. Brighton's manager thinks they might have underestimated them. He did touch on that. Shannon Ruth, the Brighton under-21s and an academy manager, did say afterwards, that he's got players there that aren't used to dealing with that sort of opposition. They would know about the non-league pyramid, of course, and they would know what level Three Bridges were playing at. But he did say perhaps they weren't quite prepared mentally for the sort of challenge that Three Bridges gave them. A good question. Did Three Bridges deserve to win? That's difficult to say. I think they certainly didn't deserve to lose. I think a draw on the night was probably a fair result. It was one of those games. Brighton had a lot of possession and a lot of kind of control of the game without really looking very threatening very often. Hit the bar a couple of times second half as they pressed when it was still 1-1. But as we saw the other night, Three Bridges scored first. Fans were loving it. Noisy lot of Three Bridges fans in the Amex. They were enjoying their big night out. Brighton then came back and equalised just before half time, and at that point you just thought Brighton, that could be Three Bridges' chance gone. You just thought maybe Brighton with the fitness coming into play second half might go on and win it. But fair play to Three Bridges, they came out for the second half like they came out for the first and had a real good go. Ran for everything, fought for everything. There was a few Three Bridges players with bit of cramp as the game went on, which you'd expect, but kept running and they had chances too. It certainly wasn't one-way traffic second half. So I think the fact that it went to penalties was probably a fair result. Once it goes to penalties, it's anyone's, isn't it? Luckily, Sam Roberts in the Three Bridges goal was the hero at the end. 9 good penalties actually before that last one that he saved. He guessed the right way and pushed it out. And what a night for Three Bridges. At the end of a season where you have to say, what a season for Three Bridges. What a once in a lifetime sort of thing, or certainly a once in a generation season for them, having won their league and won the Senior Cup in their first final at the Amex. So, well done.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we'll come on to that in a little bit. But going back to the game, without meaning to use the tired old cliche, it did kind of look like men against boys. I can't imagine that Brighton have come up against the side as physical and powerful as Three Bridges before. No. And obviously that's not a slight on Three Bridges. They're really good on the night.
It's a different type of opposition for them and a different type of game. Those lads, there was quite a few under-18s in that Brighton under-21 team, including Rio Ferdinand's son, who I think is only 17. Looks much older actually, but is only 17. Those Brighton lads will be used to playing others of the same age and physique and fitness and the same level as they're at. Three Bridges, a totally different proposition. They did have a lot of young players themselves, actually. Jamie Crellin did make mention of that himself, but also a lot of older players who have been in the non-league game a long time, know where to put a foot in, know a little bit more sort of nous, if you like, than perhaps young players at any level have got. So I think that counted in Three Bridges' favour on the night. And there were times where Brighton looked a little bit shell-shocked in terms of what they were being presented with with Three Bridges in front of them.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you mentioned, Steve, Bridges' Senior Cup triumph came just 2.5 weeks after they lifted the Isthmian South East title. And as you said, it's been quite simply a remarkable season for Jamie Crellin's boys, isn't it? What did the British boss say after the win over Brighton? And how was he feeling ahead of that first ever campaign in the Isthmian Premier? Considering they come up against the likes of Horsham and Worthing, who are a step above that, there must be a bit of belief about him.
I think there is, yeah. He actually said after the game that at the start of this season, they were aiming very high. They wanted to win the league or do as well as they could in the league, and they wanted to do well in the Senior Cup. And look at it, that's the two competitions where they've done exactly what they set out to do. They've won the league with a game to spare, and they've won the Senior Cup. Probably if you'd said to him at the start of the season, would you trade one off against another? Would you accept winning one of those things and maybe not doing so well in the other? He might have said yes. Maybe not if it was winning the cup and not doing so well in the league. I guess the league's the bread and butter. That's what they wanted to do well in after a couple of years of knocking on the door. And he also made reference to the fact that having played Horsham and Worthing and now Brighton under 21s, that's all really good experience for his team, for the older players in his team as well as the younger ones coming through, because they're now in step 3 next season in the Isthmian Premier. They're going to be going up against those sort of players more often. They're stepping up a level in terms of everything, really, in terms of sort of talent and fitness and just the levels that you need to do well at that level. And they've had a taste of it, and they've shown that they can handle it. They beat Worthing 4-2. Remember, they were 3-0 up against Worthing, and that wasn't a scratch Worthing side. That was quite a good Worthing lineup that they beat earlier in the competition, and having got through against Horsham, who at that time were having quite a good season as well at National South. Jamie did make mention of that. He said it's bound to help the preparation for next season. He's just got to make sure he keeps most of that group together, and you can see, there's some players there that will be worrying any Isthmian. I don't know if there was any Isthmian Premier managers in the crowd the other night. There probably was one or two having a look at them or watching online. And I would think they will be thinking Three Bridges could be a bit of a handful next season.
Yeah, absolutely. We wish them all the best for next season. And speaking of next season, the non-league divisional lineups have been confirmed for 26-27, and it's not without its contentions. On the positive side, 2 Sussex clubs are celebrating relegation reprieves, while another has moved, shall I say, controversially sideways, Steve?
Surprisingly, I think you could say.
So what do you make of those? I won't make you go through every single division with a fine-tooth comb, but starting with those key points you mentioned, and who are the 2 who have dodged the relegation bullet, and who's been moved laterally?
Yes, so Littlehampton and Lancing were very happy when the allocations came out Thursday lunchtime. Littlehampton had been talking about thinking they were in line for a reprieve. Basically, there was always likely to be one step 4 club saved from relegation, even though they've finished in a relegation zone, because of a team, and I think it was Widnes, who left their Step 3 league at the start of the season. They had to even up the numbers somehow, and it was decided that was how they'd do it. So it came down to a points per game calculation. As I understand it, all the teams that finished in the sort of top relegation spot of all the Step 4 leagues were put in a table. Points per game was worked out. Littlehampton actually got 46 points this season, which is pretty good. In most of the other leagues, that would have kept them up, and I think even in previous seasons at that level, that would have kept them up as well. So I spoke to Mitch Hand a couple of times between the end of the season and yesterday, and he was quite confident. It wasn't taking it for granted, because you don't know what goes on with these FA committees and things behind closed doors, but he was always quite confident that reprieve would come, and he said, if it comes, we'll take it, because we haven't had a terrible season. We've got a lot of points. We've had some good wins, and we finished the season with a good win at Horndean to make sure that we stood a chance of this. Equally, he did say, if we don't get a reprieve, we can't complain. We'll take it and we'll go back down to the SCFL. But they're very happy to have stayed in the Isthmian South Central Division. And one division below them, Lancing, have had a similar outcome. Lancing finished second from bottom in the SCFL Premier. Normally, that would mean going down to Div 1. Shoreham finished bottom, so they've gone down. Lancing, because of moves elsewhere, and from what I can tell, I think it might have something to do with the fact that Godalming won Division 1 and have not gone up to the SCFL Premier, but they've gone to a different Step 5 league. Anyway, for that reason or other reasons, Lancing lived to fight another day at Step 5. Dale Hurley is the manager there. It was a tough season for him and James Rhodes after taking over. A lot of change over a couple of years, as we know about at Lancing. But hopefully they can use that to maybe keep a lot of that squad together, look to build and look to have a better season next time. So those are the two that are reprieved. The sideways move is Chichester City. I think it's a surprise because Chichester themselves hadn't really been talking about the fact that this might happen. They finished mid-table Isthmian Premier, but because of the geographical makeup of sides at Step 3 and Step 4 for next season, they now move over to the Southern League Premier South, which means they'll be playing teams they will be playing some teams that aren't too far from them, like Havant and Gosport. But they'll also be playing teams much further west. I think I'm right in saying that Truro are one of the teams. Truro are Step 2, aren't they? There is a team.
Plymouth Parkway, I think, is who you're thinking of. Plymouth Parkway.
Yeah, that's right. So they've got some very long trips. Just waiting to find out from Chichester if they're thinking of any sort of appeal against that placement. Your teams are allowed to appeal against it. You don't usually get successful with those sort of appeals at this stage because it's kind of decisions have been made, but they might want to argue their case there. So yeah, they've gone from the Isthmian Premier, but just quickly going through some of the other leagues and the Sussex teams that are in new leagues and facing new opposition. Obviously, what's quite interesting is that we've got a Sussex team at every step of non-league from step 1 downwards next season, which I think we might have had before back in the days when Eastbourne were in National Premier, but I'm not sure. And if we did, it was a long time ago. So going down from the top, you've got Worthing at Step 1, obviously after their promotion to the National League. Horsham now are only representatives at Step 2 in National South. They've got some new opponents, people like Farnham to look forward to playing next season. Isthmian Premier, then we've got Lewis, Whitehawk and Burgess Hill, joined by Eastbourne Borough from above and Three Bridges from below. So there's some good Sussex derbies there next season. Chichester City, as I say, Southern League Premier South, also Step 3. And then we've still got our Step 4 clubs scattered between South East and South Central of the Isthmian League. Bognor and Littlehampton stay in the South Central. The teams we know were in Isthmian South East, the likes of Broadbridge Heath, Eastbourne Town, Hastings and Crowborough stay in Isthmian South East and are joined by coming up from below, obviously Stenning won the SCFL, so they're in the Isthmian South East, and the winners of the Guernsey Peacehaven playoff, which we'll come to in a minute, will also go into the Isthmian South East. And then obviously we've got some teams going the other way as well, so I've got in front of me, because I couldn't quite remember all of this, Southern Combination Premier Division. You've got Billingshurst have come up from Division 1. East Grinstead and Hassocks both gone down from Isthmian South East into that division, and Lancing are still there, but not having expected to be there. And then Southern Combination Division 1, really interesting one actually. And quite a, I saw somebody on Twitter, I think it might have been Billy Wood, said when he looked at that, he thought it was like National South, because the teams although it's Step 6, the teams are spread far and wide. You've got Clearfield, who are based sort of between Portsmouth and Petersfield. I think that's probably the best way of putting it. They have gone into that division. You've got Dial Square. Now, when I saw Dial Square in there, I thought, who's that? But you actually know a bit more than me about who they are. Do you want to just sort of explain
I do indeed.
A bit about them?
Yeah, so kind of in the same vein as FC United and AFC Liverpool, I believe Dial Square are a protest club. I don't know if that's the correct word. For Arsenal, Dial Square being the old name for Arsenal before it became Woolwich Arsenal. And they started all the way down in the Surrey County Division. So like you were saying, going back to the big geographical spread, I don't think many people were expecting to see a team from Surrey, because I believe they play in Knaphill, which might be Guildford or Woking. I should know, being Surrey World's number one reporter, Steve. I should know that straight away. But yes, no, a bit of a surprise to see them in that division. It's going to be quite a wide geographical spread, isn't it? As you quite rightly said.
It is. Yeah, there's a couple of other Surrey teams in there as well. All Countians are still in there, who I think, do they play at Cobham? Not sure.
I think so, yeah.
Making this up as I go now a little bit. Reigate Priory are still in that division as well. And then from the other side of Sussex, two promoted sides. The other, Dial Square have been promoted into it, but the other two sides that come into the SCFL are Westfield and Elsham, coming up from one from the Mid Sussex League and one from the East Sussex League, I think that is. So, some wide variety of sort of teams in there. Guildford City actually as well have been relegated, and they're in that league. So Godalming is placed in the way, I suppose you could say. So, yeah, some interesting trips and new experiences for our Division 1 teams in there. Should be a really interesting league and a very difficult one to predict, I would think.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of predictions, Steve, I think with this season coming, we can say with 100% certainty, we will predict who will finish highest out of our teams in the National League Premier and National League South, which would be a
Yes.
which would be a rarity.
There might be something that we get right for a change. We won't be putting the mockers on anyone like we usually do.
No, absolutely. The only other downside, I guess, is that with every club in most of our divisions, the podcast might be 4.5 hours, which I'm sure people will enjoy.
Have to have some intervals in the middle, a cup of tea or something like that.
Absolutely. Well, one matter that is yet to be resolved, which Steve briefly touched upon, is the curious case of the SCFL Premier playoff. To give you a bit of background, Peacehaven and Telscombe were due to fly over to Guernsey for a place in the Isthmian South East last weekend, but the game didn't take place. Why didn't it go ahead last Saturday, Steve? And what's the latest? It seems like it's, as you mentioned at the top of the podcast, it's created a bit of chaos in Sussex Non-League.
Yeah. So we Peacehaven over to Guernsey on, as you say, 10th of May, week after the semi-final. It looks as though Guernsey were not able to organise a reasonable flight there and back for Peacehaven. It is Guernsey's job to sort of see the travel. They couldn't get Peacehaven over all in one party. They would fly from one and back to a different one, which obviously makes life very difficult with cars being in the wrong place and that sort of thing. I think they have to Gatwick and then go back to Southampton, just of the flight arrangements that we can. So that where that became an issue, the SCFL said, right, it's going to have to be on the mainland. Guernsey, if Guernsey can't do that, they're going to have to come over to, not necessarily to Peacehaven, but maybe a neutral ground or something. Guernsey objected quite strongly to that. They felt they had earned home advantage by finishing the higher of the two clubs, which is a lot of talks between Peacehaven and the league. Guernsey were eventually needed to do that because in the end it was decided that Peacehaven could go to Guernsey on a different day, but they're not going until the 23rd of May, so it's more than a week away as we speak now. That will be getting on for a month after. Well, I think it'd be 3 weeks after the semi-finals were held, which will certainly be the last game for Peacehaven. I've got a feeling Guernsey might have another sort of Channel Islands game in the intervening period. Been trying to find out what Peacehaven think of this decision. Not had anything at the moment. Wouldn't imagine they're too. I would think they were led to believe that the game would now be over here, and it's not going to be. You also, you talk about a level of football where after the end of the season, players will often do something else. They're not going to be expecting to be playing on the day. So whether Peacehaven are going to lose a few to holidays and things like that, and we'll have a bit of a weakened team. I mean, Guernsey might have a weakened team as well. We don't know. But they'll go over there. Nothing to lose, I suppose, for Peacehaven. They finished 5th in the league, so they've done well to get to the playoff final. Being interesting, could be a bit of need in the game because it's happened. We'll keep an eye on it to see who goes to South East and who stays in SCFL Premier.
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose that the fact that it's staying on Guernsey probably makes them red hot favourites to earn promotion, Steve.
Yeah, their home form's pretty good. They beat Horsham YM fairly comfortably in the playoff semi on ground. They'll have their own fans. Shouldn't think Peacehaven will be able to take too many fans with them. You'd certainly say they're favourites, especially if we get into the realms of Peacehaven not having a full squad to pick from.
Yeah, absolutely. And on the subject of playoff finals, Billingshurst and Infinity did battle at Jubilee Fields in the SCFL Division 1 playoff final on the 2nd of May. Who came out on top in this one, Steve, and who can look forward to a debut campaign in the SCFL Premier in 26-27?
Yeah, Billingshurst are promoted. They beat Infinity 2-1 in the final back on, which all these weekends are sort of merging into one now, blurring into one. But yeah, it was 2-1 to Billingshurst, and we've done a couple of pieces since with Billingshurst manager Eddie French, who has talked about it was a funny season they had because they had some really strong spells, but they did drop out of the playoff places as late as about March, I think. And he sort of pulled him and his management team pulled the players together and said, "Look, we can still do this, but we need to win all our games from here on in, see where that takes us." And they pretty much did that. Actually, they had a really strong end to the season. Got themselves a home semi-final, which was against Worthing United. Won that with a couple of late goals, and it was Infinity who got through to the final against having played Reigate Priory, I think it was. So Billingshurst had home advantage for the final. Fairly tight game, could have gone either way, but Billingshurst got the job done, 1-2-1, and are now looking forward to going into the Premier Division. They've had a few years of sort of knocking on the door, being there or thereabouts in Division 1. And Eddie French, in a piece that is actually going on Sussex World today, is saying, look at the teams there. It's quite daunting in a way. There's some strong teams there. You've got Hayward's Heath, you've got Hassocks. You might still have Guernsey if they go up, or Peacehaven. You've got Horsham YM as well. You've got some good sort of Horsham area derbies actually for Billingshurst to play. Roffey are in there as well, of course. But he's saying, yeah, we can't wait. We're excited by it. It's a new challenge for us. Bring it on.
Absolutely, and as a Horsham boy, always good to see a local team do well. So well done to everyone at Billingshurst. Well, the early May bank holiday weekend also saw Little Common and newly crowned SCFL Premier champions Stenning Town clash in the Peter Bentley Cup final. Who took home the trophy, Steve? Did the Barrowmen complete a league and cup double, or did Common lift the cup for the first time in their club's history?
It went to Stenning. Stenning completed the double 9 days after they'd won the SCFL Premier title. Not straightforward though. Little Common were 1-0 up at half time, and Stenning looked as though they had a bit of a sort of league hangover. They're a bit leggy, weren't playing all that well. Michael Ham got them, to put the right thing in the half-time cups of tea. Got them firing second half, and they ran out 4-1 winners in the end. So yeah, commiserations to Little Common on losing that one, but did very well to get to the final. And yeah, it's a bit of a theme in Sussex this year, isn't it? We've seen Three Bridges do a league and cup double, and Stenning have done the same. The perfect season for them, really winning SCFL on the final day, and then 9 days going over to Peacehaven and winning the Peter Bentley. So yeah, they ended the season very happy.
They did indeed, but it's not all been sunshine and roses at the shooting field, as in news that shocked many in Sussex Non-League circles, and especially myself and Steve at the Amex when we found it. Manager Michael Ham announced he'd be stepping down as Stenning manager. Didn't see this coming at all, did we, Steve? And what did the club and Ham have to say about his departure, and where does it leave Stenning going into just their second ever Isthmian League campaign?
Yeah, real surprise, a real shock, I think you could call it. The news on Wednesday night, while we were at the Senior Cup final, didn't it? A statement from Stenning and one from Michael Ham at the same time. Stenning said they were very sorry to have to report that Michael Ham had decided to step down as manager. His statement talked about the fact that it had been a quite an exhausting and relentless season. He'd had a I think he's getting on for 18 months. He'd enjoyed every minute of it. He'd worked with some great people, but he lives a little way away from Stenning. He lives more over the Bognor end of town, I think, and he's got a young family, 3 young children, I think, and he just felt now was the time he needed to sort of give something back to the family, give some of the time and energy that he'd been giving to Stenning to his family. And you can understand that, at this level of football, I think it probably can take over your life. For a lot of people, it does. For a lot of people, they can continue for that to happen long term. Others can't or don't want to, and you have to respect that. Stenning have said that they would like to keep him involved in the club in some capacity, whether that would be as a sort of consultant or an occasional coach or whatever, we don't know. I don't think they know themselves, and we don't know if Michael Ham is going to agree to that. But it's not a case where it certainly doesn't look as though he's left sort of with a view to moving on to a different job straight away. What is interesting is that a couple of players since Michael announced his resignation, a couple of players have also left Stenning. Notable ones too. Dion Jarvis and Stan Bridgman have both indicated that they will also be moving on. So you just, if you're a Stenning fan, you've got to hope that the whole team doesn't break up. 2 years ago, Kev Green led Stenning to the SCFL title 2024. He then left quite soon after that was confirmed. Quite a few of the players left as well. Actually, ended up at Haywards Heath with him after a little while. So Stenning did struggle after that. It took a little while to decide who was going to replace him and which way to go. So I think they will be making sure now that they get somebody in place quickly. They haven't given long for applications to come in for the job of manager, so they want to move quickly. They'll be, whoever that is, will be looking to keep that squad together, or most of the squad together, not lose too many more players from it, so that they can make a good impression in the Isthmian next season. So it's slightly worrying times for them though.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, fingers crossed. There's a quick appointment there, and best of luck to Michael wherever he lands. And while we're on the subject, Steve, have there been many other managerial movements in Sussex that people may have missed?
No, they haven't really. No, I've been scouting around for them, but at the moment, it's early days still, but most clubs seem to be sort of staying with who they've got at the moment. Obviously, what can happen when one club has a vacancy and fills it can set off a bit of a chain. So you might find that perhaps somebody from Step 5 goes to Stenning, and then there's a lot of speculation about who will fill that job, and one vacancy leads to another. Equally, they might go for somebody who's not in a current job in Sussex. Quite possible as well. Be interesting to see. I'm sure there will be some changes between now and pre-season. I've seen a couple of people, and it's pure speculation, no more than that. A couple of people in reply to Stenning on social media saying, surely Jay Lovett is your man, which was an interesting one. Obviously, he left Burgess Hill a few weeks before the end of the season. He is at a loose end in terms of club management at the moment, so wonder if he will appeal to them or they will appeal to him. We'll have to see. We'll maybe have to get him on the podcast and ask him, but there'll be one or two surprises, I'm sure, in the manager stakes. But if you think from Worthing downwards, most of our sort of leading clubs in Sussex, they know their manager is at the moment, and they're probably not going to change between now and the start of the season. Give it 6 weeks into the season, and that could change after a few defeats, as we've seen in past years, but might not be too many changes before then.
I think, knowing our history of predictions, Steve, I'm predicting our Step 1, 2 and 3 clubs to all have changed manager by about October, is what I'm going to go for.
Or go on a merry-go-round or something.
Absolutely.
Hot places.
And finally, to end the podcast, clubs up and down the county have been busy making preparations ahead of the rapidly approaching 2026-27 campaign, including Worthing and Eastbourne Borough, who this month both announced their respective retained and released lists. For those of you who didn't know, I don't know why you'd be listening to this podcast to start with, but Worthing were crowned 2025-26 National League South champions, earning promotion to the National League Premier for the first time ever, while Eastbourne Borough suffered relegation to the Isthmian Premier. So, Steve, basically, when the two clubs released their respective retained lists, what caught your eye? Have Borough made wholesale changes? Now they've dropped down to step 3, and does it look like Adam Hinshelwood has kept faith in the Rebels players who earned promotion to step 1?
Yeah, taking Borough first, it was always going to be a big summer of change, I think, for their squad, because they've gone down from National South to Isthmian Premier, and they're going from full-time to part-time. So just those two factors in themselves tell you all you need to know about. There's not going to be many players who were regulars last season who are still going to be regulars next season. So just to run through Eastbourne Borough then, they had a few players already on contract, and I'm going to go surnames only here just for speed of thought, otherwise we'll be here all afternoon. So Eastbourne Borough contracted for 26-27, Corbett, Eastmond, Grout, Hobden, Mullins, Omateo, Phipps and Trusty. 3 players offered new deals, and they're talking to them, and that is Carter, Quick and Tarrant. Back to parent clubs after loans have expired go Armitage and Jeb, and there's a total of 17, would you believe, that have left the club following the end of the season. I think Steve King said in one of his interviews before this was announced, he said we're likely to need to lose about 20. It's because they're not full-time anymore, and they need to sort of rebuild for the level they're at next season. So it's not a great surprise. But leaving at the end of the season, or having left now, are Ademola, Angol, Anakai, Bird, Castro, Davis, Fairney, Harley, Lintott, Luthra, May, Blado, Sagaf, Searle, Skeeters, Taylor and Turner. It's like a school register, isn't it? That's quite a number that have left, and I'm sure some of those have already got fixed up with new clubs. They've been playing at a good level, so they're not going to be found wanting in terms of finding a new club, I'm sure. So good luck to them. Worthing, obviously very different picture of Worthing. They're also leaving step 2, but that's because they're going up to step 1. And I think Worthing's retained list kind of shows there's 1 or 2 surprises in it, and it kind of shows that they're going to be quite ruthless, because Adam Hinshelwood, he said a couple of times, I think the stat is that 80% of clubs who go up from step 2 to step 1 go down again within 2 years. And we need to try to make sure we're not in that percentage. We don't want to be coming back down within 2 years, having worked so hard to get there. And he said, we lost 12 games last season. So if you think that a team that has lost 12 games in National South is going to survive sort of man for man, like for like in National South, in National Premier, you're wrong. You're probably not. So I think there's going to be quite a lot of new faces coming into Worthing. But again, just to run through the names there, under contract for 26-27 at Worthing are Cox, Ransom, Colbran, Burgess, Godsmiski, Jenks and Mikowski. Contract extensions triggered for Brad Dollahan and Raz Coleman de Graft. Ben Jackson, who was under contract but has been made available for transfer. They're in discussions with and hopeful of sorting something out with Bailey Smith, Joe Cook, Sam Beard, Sam Packham, Taylor Seymour. The ones who were out of contract and released, and there's quite a few of them: Morton, Jordan, Nkrumah, apologies if that pronunciation is not quite right, Spong, Young, Remy, Chukwu, Frimpong, who has already, I know, got fixed up with a deal at Aldershot, and Sorondo. I think Spong and Sorondo were probably the 2 biggest surprises there. I think a lot of fans thought they would still be part of things next season and given a chance as squad players, if not first team regulars. There's also 3 loanees gone back to parent clubs. That's Nadeson, Jeffries and Moulton. Moulton did quite well for them end of the season, so I think they might possibly talk to Watford about whether they can get him back either on loan or whether there's some sort of deal to be done there. But I think we'll probably see quite a few new faces coming into Worthing between now and pre-season. Adam Hinshelwood has said we're unlikely to get everything done by the time we come back for pre-season, as much as you might like to do that. So you've got your full squad there. There's going to be a bit of a waiting game. There'll be some players from higher up that won't be part of things and will therefore be available later on. So they've got to keep a lookout for those. He's also talked about relationships that Worthing have got with pro clubs, clubs like Pompey, Brighton, Southampton. They've got links there, so there could be 1 or 2 sort of good level loanees coming in as well from places like that. So, yeah, be a busy old summer at Woodside Road and for different reasons at Priory Lane. So watch both with interest.
Yeah, keeping us very busy over the summer, won't they, Steve? No doubt.
Great, so no time off for us.
No, it never is. Rubbish. That's about it for this episode. My thanks to Steve for joining me. And as we mentioned at the top of the podcast, don't forget to keep checking out sussexworld.co.uk/sport for all the best coverage of local football, plus your local Sussex weekly papers. And keep your eyes peeled for future episodes of the podcast, where we'll hope to have guests from a variety of clubs over pre-season. My thanks again to Steve for joining me. And my thanks to you for listening and watching. And we'll see you all in 2 weeks' time.